So I just wanted to kind of give you a breakdown of LA County. As you can see, it's a pretty vast county. It's 4,700 square miles. 700 square miles of that is considered coastline. So we have Catalina Island, which is off the coast. And then basically, as you can see from the map, you go from the Pacific Ocean through some snow-capped mountains, and then you get to the high desert, which is on the top of the map there. Cities like Palmdale, Lancaster. High desert, as opposed to low desert, would be Palm Springs, which is much more tepid. 10 million population, we've got 88 incorporated cities and 46 law enforcement agencies inside the county. Just for points of reference, the first circle I put up there is the Palisades fire. That was the area affected by the Palisades fire. I'll talk a little bit more about it, but just so you know kind of the areas that were touched by fire in January of last year. And then in the upper right-hand corner of that circle is what's known as the Eaton fire. It affected the city of Altadena. It's kind of a fire department thing. They like to name their incidents. And therefore, this one was named after Eaton Canyon because that's where the fire started. So that's where the Eaton comes from, but it's actually the city of Altadena that was affected. As far as our office, Nathan Hoffman's our district attorney. Our office is spread out, of course, throughout the county. We have 30 branch and area offices. Our headquarters is here at the Hall of Justice in downtown LA. 7 juvenile offices, a number of specialized units, either housed here at the Hall of Justice or throughout the county. We have a Bureau of Victim Services, over 1,000 deputy district attorneys, 800 professional staff. And then we also have a Bureau of Investigation. It's comprised of 220 sworn investigators. Was considered, just depends on the day, whether we are the 4th largest law enforcement agency in the county, but usually hover around the 4th largest. As far as the district attorney's caseload in 2024, about 132,000 cases were reviewed. All these are approximations. 106,000 were filed, and then it's broken down from there between felony and misdemeanor filings. And then just kind of real quickly, that's where you'll find all of our offices throughout the county. So as far as it comes to emergency planning, I have a number of things on here. One of the things I have to point out for us in Southern California is when I put fires and debris flows, that's basically our 2 seasons here in Southern California. We're either on fire or it's muddy. And then a number of other incidents that we've seen here, but really for the purposes of my presentation, I just refer to it as an unusual occurrence. And pretty much anything that's a major accident, a physical assault, or anything that interrupts your daily essential services as a prosecutorial office. And then I also ask all of you just to kind of think about your specific situations. What would be a high profile event for you? Have you ever thought about that unforeseen incident that could occur that brings nationwide or international attention to your town or your county? It seems to be a weekly thing here in LA County, right across the street at our criminal courts building. But it is something you should think about how you're going to deal with an incident like that. And I'll quickly kind of just talk about what happened in January 7th of last year between the Palisades and Eaton fires. We had over 16,000 structures that were destroyed. For growing up in an area which you're very familiar with, Altadena, apocalyptic wasn't really the definition to describe what it looked like there. It's just completely entire neighborhoods and entire communities were wiped off the earth. They're just burnt out hulks of cars and chimneys. And I want to quickly just go through some information about how it affected our office and what our responses were. So if you think about it, it's about 130 square miles that was evacuated. It affected over 200,000 residents. And then just a number of outages. We had water systems that were contaminated, do not drink orders, and horrific air quality for a while. What a lot of people don't know about Santa Ana winds, not to get meteorological on you, but it's basically the wind blows from the northeast to the southwest. And because it comes from the high desert, it tends to be very dry. And it usually lasts over several days. So when we had the really high wind events that just fan these fires, in the days after, it's still windy. So we do have poor air quality. There's things still blowing through the air, ash, smoke. You got to imagine over 16,000 structures were destroyed. So, the combustion of electronics, vehicles, materials in homes, lead, arsenic, all that sort of stuff is being blown through the air. So it does still affect the area, asbestos and things like that. As far as resources, all of law enforcement in LA County was tapped. You were either assigned to a mutual aid response or fixed post, but everybody was tapped out on tactical alert for the entire county while you have these two large areas. And it remained like that for quite some time. The National Guard was called in to help with closures in the area. And as you can see there, residential access was closed for many days. And there's still areas that are recreational areas that are closed as, currently. And then as far as the LADA operations, I know our Pasadena court was affected mainly due to its close proximity to the fire. So poor air quality and there would be power outages, data outages, things like that would affect their operations. And then that causes for what is your response going to be for that? As far as our office, the DA himself participated in a number of press conferences up front, basically to announce his intent and continued intent to prosecute for looting, impersonation of police and fire. It got so bad on the impersonation level that there was, people who had their own fire engines that somehow they were able to get into the closed areas and then loot the surviving structures and commit burglaries. Throughout the county, we had copycats that were inspired by the fires that were setting fires in different areas. All the financial scams that were going on. In particular, our DA took a stance against price gouging. Excuse me. And for LA County, for in order for price gouging to be in effect, like it says, there has to be an emergency or disaster declaration. And then it specifically focuses on prices for shelters, services, and supplies. And those increases are limited to 10%. So
you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. And then he also went after all the unlicensed contractors. So I like to talk about plans and just things for folks to think about as you're going into your planning. Mainly what this means is you have to adapt, you have to be flexible and prepare to manage the evolving risks in real time. Because no matter what you plan for, when you start to engage the problem, you're going to have to pivot at some point. And then as Eisenhower mentioned there, he said plans are worthless, but planning is essential. Mainly, it gives you a chance to explore the problem. And this is based off of his D-Day invasion plans and how things didn't go right. What do you do? Well, the planning process helps prepare you for those contingencies. And one of my favorite quotes, which I think resonates with everyone, is everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, from our friend Mike Tyson. And basically, it's just, sorry about that. It's just an opportunity for you to say, now what? And if at any time in any of your organizations, you start talking about things and you hear the phrase, well, we're just going to do it the way we've always done it, that should be a signal that maybe you should take a harder look at that, because you don't want to always do it the way you've done it, because you may not be privy to the issues that you encountered in the past. So here at the LADA's office, we have the continuity of operations plan, which basically focuses on the five where we've identified the 5 critical functions that we need to maintain. Our command center, which I'll talk about a little bit, or in the next slide. Basically, your arraignments. How are you going to deal with custodies if the courthouse can't handle it? Where are you going to go? Are you running on time limits on certain cases? How can you handle that? How are you reaching out to your victims and witnesses? I know Marcy's Law isn't in effect in all 50 states, but I know 12 of them they are. It's basically the mandates that you have to notify victims of what's happening with the defendant, and then basically your admin functions for your office, your human resources and whatnot. Our command center, real quickly, is basically a 24/7 operation that's manned around the clock. It's a resource not only for our personnel, but it's a resource for all LA County law enforcement. If they need to get in contact with a judge for search warrants, or if they're an unusual case or an officer-involved shooting, they can reach out and we can get the proper teams to roll out to help them out. And on a quick note, alerting system, we switched to the Genesis alerting system as a result of the fires. Mainly as it aligns us better with the county's Office of Emergency Management, who already uses the system. I just throw it up there as reference. But as with any communication system with your employees, is it going to be a voluntary opt-in or is it going to be involuntary? And either one of those for your employees is going to be problematic because you have to always make sure your databases are up to date. And then I'm going to quickly transition over to personal safety for our prosecutors in the courtroom and things that we should think about. Just situational awareness. You driving to and from. Do you have patterns? Do you go to the same coffee shop? Are you likely to encounter somebody that you're either is on trial or associated with the trial, victim or witness? In court, things to think about. Are you ever left alone in the courtroom? Are your bailiffs available to assist you with your safety, or are they constantly dealing with defendants, getting them to and from lockout and in and out of the courtroom whenever the jury is in recess?
1 minute.
Defendants in the courtroom, are you safe and protected? Just some things you have. And do you have resources? Do you have personnel? Do you have your own Bureau of Investigation that can help you, or do you have representatives of law enforcement, your investigating officers who can help you out? And again, very similar, pay attention to your ID. Do you keep it public? Is it likely to attract attention while you're out on the streets walking to and from court? Are there things you can do to vary your routes to and from court and to and from work? And online safety, I like to just talk about, these are some services. I'll leave it up there for a few if you're interested in it. I always tell all my DDAs, you have so much information online that's easily accessible. These resources, which are only a few, I throw them up there. They will, for a fee, go through all of your data online and try to remove it as much as possible from all the public sites to make you that much harder to find and kind of reduce your exposure. But it's always limited to how active you are online with social media and whatnot. Are you constantly putting your information out there? Do you use your personal phone to talk to victims, witnesses, or defendants? Really, really use your discretion, because it could come back to bite you with talking to something that seems as harmless as speaking with a victim in a case, specifically like, for example, a domestic violence case, who still lives with the defendant. We've had cases where DDAs have spoken with victims, and then next thing you know, the defendant's calling and saying that she wants to drop all the charges, and now you're kind of in a bind. Does your state have the ability to make your, or DMV have the ability to make your information confidential? If so, I recommend you pursue that so that you can't simply find out where you live based off of your license plate or driver's license. Check your state bar license. You shouldn't be using your home address. Please try to use your work address, because usually if somebody does a Google search on you, that's the first thing that's going to pop up. And it'd be nice if you use your headquarters or office address as your home address.